So now that we've created our three distinct VPCs, how do we actually connect them? Well, that's what we're going to do in today's video, and we're going to do that with the power of the Transit Gateway. A Transit Gateway is kind of like a central core router or really a hub. And if we go to VPC services and scroll down a bit, we can see here that we have a few options. And again, we need to first create that Transit Gateway. Then the transit gateway attachments are kind of like the spokes. They can connect a few different things, but in our use case, we are actually going to be connecting those three VPCs. And last but not least, the transit gateway route table is what ties it all together. So when the traffic or packets enter into the transit gateway, this is where the forwarding decision is going to be made based off the associations and the routes that are here. So let's go ahead and get started and we'll click on Transit Gateway. Create Transit Gateway. There's two buttons, one here and another here, but we can click either one. Let's go ahead and give it a name, though it's optional. We'll just call it POC for Proof of Concept, TGW. TGW Proof of Concept. And then for the ASN, again, if we were, once we use BGP, which would be further down the road, this is where we would enter that here. This is a required field. And so if we click info, we can see the range that we can be provided. So we need to pick a number within this range. So we'll just pick 65,500. Again, this won't come into play for our POC. Similarly, these different options here can either be toggled on or off. Some are selected by default, and if we were to click info, we could get more details about them. We see that we have the default route table association as well as the default route table propagation check. We'll leave that check, but we'll demonstrate how we can come back and change these options once the transit gateway is configured. An option for auto accept shared attachments. This again, once we get to the point of using multiple AWS accounts, and then if we were to share this through Resource Access Manager or RAM, this is where we could select to go ahead and automatically accept those requests. We don't need to enter a CIDR here, TGW, and our tag is already created. So let's go ahead and click this and get this one underway. We'll refresh real quick, but this might take just a bit, so we'll wait. So now that we have our transit gateway here, again, before we move on to creating those TGW attachments, if we were to select this, if ever there were any times where you needed to change some of those configurations as we noted, simply click on Actions, Modify Transit Gateway, and you could come back and basically deselect or select or reselect some of these options. There are, of course, going to be a few that you don't see here from the previous menu, but we'll leave those. So we'll cancel out here. And again, we'll come back down to our menu on the left-hand side and we'll move on to the second step, which is creating the transit gateway attachments. We'll do this one at a time. So we'll click create transit gateway attachment and we'll give this a name. Let's first start with our security VPC TGW attachment. We only have one transit gateway to basically attach that to. We do have different attachment types, VPN, VPC, and of course peering connection and connect. But again, we're connecting those three VPCs. Similarly to the TGW, there's options here as well. We won't go into depth about each of these. The appliance mode is if we were messing with a gateway load balancer, that's where that comes into play. And then support for IPv6 has been added a wee bit ago. So we'll select that VPC, security VPC. And this is where in last video, when we created those border subnets, this is where that comes into play. And again, AWS recommends creating an unused subnet, and this helps with in the future if you were to do anything, you won't influence anything because let's say you had a mix of different servers, etc., using that same subnet, and you wanted to influence routing, but you got that border subnet, and it could create some issues with traffic forwarding decisions. So that's one of the reasons they recommend that. Let's go ahead and create the other two. So we will do application, VPC, TGW attachment, again, TGW, keep the defaults, and that VPC is right there. We'll select the border subnets and create. And then we've got one left to do, and that's the security tools, VPC, TGW attachment. We'll select that TGW and that VPC, keep the defaults, make sure the border subnets are selected, and this will create that attachment. So we'll wait for these to get created as well. All right, so now we see that each of these VPCs Transit Gateway attachment is in the state of available. So we should now be able to come back down, and because we selected that box to basically associate them to this route table, if we come here, we see that we already have a TGW route table here. Let's just quickly put a tag on it, and let's give ourselves a little bit more space, and let's take a look. So if we come to associations again, each of those was automatically associated here. And then underneath propagations, we see that the routes for each are going to be listed here as well. And so really, we don't have any work to do. But if we hadn't selected that, this is where we would have to come and basically underneath associations, we would create an association and we would select the attachment there. We would wait for it to associate. And likewise, we would come here and have to manually create a static route. And this is what that would look like. We would enter the CIDR and then again, select the attachment there. And so to be quite honest, that's really the three steps that we need. We're all set here, not only with the basic network infrastructure, but we have all of our routing elements and forwarding decisions that need to be made. So in our next video, we're going to actually go ahead and deploy that Palo Alto firewall and the security VPC.